Are you looking for the best 2024 NFL Week 6 DFS advice around? Then get ready for the live IDP Plus Week 6 DFS podcast. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Joel Wirth. That's my buddy, Jameson Hutchison. It is Week 6. We got a game going in London right now. We got 4 teams on bye. We got a 10-game slate to talk about. Jameson, how you doing today? What are you thinking about Week 6?
Doing good. It's been a weird week. Had a lot of injuries. Well, I think most of the injuries have cleared out. We'll figure that out within the next probably hour or so. But if you're playing cash today, it seems very one-sided for a lot of it, and then kind of figure the rest out yourself kind of weeks. But other than that, I'm looking forward to it. I think we got some stuff to exploit, and I'm looking forward to go over it with you.
Yeah, it's kind of a goofy week. There's a lot of road favorites this week. And it just feels like there's not a whole lot of like super obvious bargains on the DFS slate. So you kind of just have to make calls, and like the rosters don't build themselves this week. So you're going to have to get out there and make some decisions, but let's get to it. Let's talk about the early games, and we will start with one of the highest over-under games on the slate. That is the Washington Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens. This is a 51.5 point total. Ravens 6.5 point home favorites. Implied total of 29 for the Ravens and 22.5 for Washington. A lot of people are going to be going here. A lot of fun stuff in this game. What are you liking?
Honestly, I think I'm going to avoid a lot of this game. I've just had a very hard time trying to figure this out. I don't think that the Commanders can keep up with the Ravens, and that's the game script that I'm going with. I know that the Commanders have been really good on offense, but at the same time, the defenses that they've gone up against have been pretty lackluster, to say the least. So, and once you kind of break down the game, outside of, say, Lamar and Zay Flowers, like when you're playing Jane Daniels, I know Terry McLaurin's all right, but we haven't really seen a monster ceiling game from him. So, I mean, it gets kind of goofy. And then outside of that, you're not comfortable playing Zach Ertz, probably not playing Luke McCaffrey. So it gets goofy on that end. We got Brian Robinson out, so Austin Eckler ends up being, I would say, a decent play. But at the same time, you get Jane Daniels, who's a running quarterback, who's probably not going to have a lot of dump offs if they're in a bad game script. So it gets goofy on that end. And then going to the Ravens, just coming off the shoot off with the Bengals. Honestly, I think it's Derrick Henry game, and that's the way that I'm going to play it. I think that they can get up to a lead, and the Commanders trying to play keep up, and Commanders defense has been very bad. I think they've been giving up close to 5 yards per play on the ground against running backs, which, I mean, I know the secondary sucks too, but I think I'm just going to lean Derrick Henry here and go about it this way. But I know a lot of people want to play this game, and I just there's a couple other games I like a little bit better. I know this game on paper looks awesome, but I'm just kind of going a different way with it. So how are you feeling about it?
I mean, this is just a nonsense gut feeling, but this just feels like a game that's going to disappoint. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that this is not going to be the game that everyone wants it to be. It's just going to get kind of wonky, and I think it could be a game where like both teams have a bunch of long drives and we don't see a whole lot of points. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a lot of yards, but not a lot of points. But I don't know. That's just me. That's just my narrative side. I do like Eckler. I think he's at a nice price for a guy who's going to have the backfield to himself, primarily 5,700 on FanDuel, 56 on DK. So that's pretty nice. I like that. But yeah, Lamar Jackson's just really expensive for a game that I'm just not sure how it's going to play out. So, yeah, he's not where I'm going at quarterback. We'll talk about where I'm putting basically all my money this week at a later time. But so, yeah, I just don't feel like this is the game that I want to hammer. There's a different game that I do want to hammer. But, yeah, so it's like, do you trust McLaurin? Do you trust Zay Flowers? Like Henry was in a massive game script. Henry had a good but not slate-breaking game. So, you could be right. This could be the game that he just takes over. But, yeah, I almost want to bet the under on this game. I just feel like this isn't going to be the game that people think it's going to be.
Yeah, I want to bring up something just real quick. We've seen these game scripts, and I looked up Justice Hill's price. I know it's ugly. If you're playing large field stuff, if you think this game like goes back and forth, Justice Hill will be on the field more than people think. It won't be Derrick Henry kind of gets game scripted out of these things just because, he's not going to run the ball if they're slinging it all over the yard. So Justice Hill is fine. But like I said, I'm with you. I don't know what it is about this game. I'm not into it as much as others. Like, I think it can get there as far as points go, but as far as actual fantasy matters with a bunch of wide receivers and the quarterbacks carrying them, I mean, Jane Daniels and Lamar Jackson can both go for like 30 points and don't have the significant, say, like wide receiver to bring along with them. Just the running ability. If it gets spread out a little too thin, I know a lot of people talk about Rashad Bateman. I just can't do it personally, but that's me. I've done that. I've played that song a lot of times. I've been disappointed every time I've heard it, so I just can't do it again. But I think that is about it on this game. Like I said, I'm going to play Derrick Henry. I don't want to say comfortable, but I'm just kind of putting my foot on the ground and playing that. But that's really about it for this game. I think for both of us, kind of think it's going to be a disappointment, I guess I should say, for what like people expect. So unless you got anything, we can move on to the next game. But that's all I've got on this one.
Yeah, watch now. It'll be a 41-39 game. We'll
Yep.
both look stupid. But
Right. Yep.
All right,
That's how it
let's
goes.
move on to the next game. That is Colts Titans. Indianapolis on the road is a 2.5-point dog to Tennessee. The over-under is 43. Tennessee coming off their bye with an implied total of 22.75 and 20.25 for the Colts. This game started as a pick'em, and it's gone all the way to Tennessee 2.5. So interesting that obviously the Sharps are very much on the Titans on this one. How are you feeling about what? Is there anything you wanted? I know there's one player I really like, but what are you thinking?
I really like Calvin Ridley this week, just going up against the Colts secondary. For whatever reason, I think this game can get a little wonky and might be a little bit of fun. Like if you play Anthony Richardson by himself, because I don't think he's going to bring anybody with him, and then say if you play Calvin Ridley or Tony Pollard's in an awesome matchup too. But DeAndre Hopkins his usage has been very weird this year. Like I believe it was against the Dolphins on Monday Night Football 2 weeks ago. They got in the red zone a couple times and he was not on the field for it. I don't know why. I forgot to make a call to Titans ownership and just ask what's going on there. But so I'm very scared to play him. I know he's cheap, but if he's not going to be on the field when I need him the most, I just don't want to play him. But I mean, I don't think Calvin Ridley's going to have a lot of ownership, and he sets up an awesome spot. Got some coach speak over the bye. Got to get our playmakers involved. You get paid a lot of money to do that. I would expect you to, but they've talked about Calvin Ridley, but Tony Pollard is a really nice matchup on that side too. So I want to hear, before we get into anything else, I want to hear the one guy that you're excited about.
You and I are on opposite sides on this one because I think this is the DeAndre Hopkins breakout game.
Okay.
I think he had the bye week to kind of get healthy. He had the really good game against the Packers, and then just kind of he had that really funky game against Miami on Monday night where just nobody scored. So
Right.
I think this is the game he gets healthy. He's my kind of punt play at wide receiver this week. 5,800 on FanDuel, 5,100 on DK. I just got a feeling that this is the week that he's going. Like Ridley hasn't done anything either.
No.
He had a decent game on that Monday night game against Miami, but otherwise he hasn't done anything. I just think Ridley's got, or D-Hop's got the experience with Will Levis. I'm just feeling the breakout game for him coming this week.
I like that call. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure anybody on earth, well, there might be like one or two, but to have the stones to call it like that. So this is the spot for him. I know Mayo Boy is not necessarily my cup of tea. He would be a decent quarterback if he would just quit doing the Carson Wentz turnover once a game. That's so mind-numbing that, your brain just wants to reset and rescan everything that's ever seen in life. But I just there's not a better spot for the Tennessee Titans than this Colts defense or lack thereof with Gus Bradley. One guy I do want to talk about is just Anthony Richardson. We know what his ceiling is. He is 7,300 over on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings. Give me just a second here. I'll pull him up.
6,000.
6,000. I think you could play him by himself. It seems like Pittman and Josh Downs are going to play. I would prefer Downs over Pittman personally. But before he got hurt, which, same story, different day, he looked pretty decent that last game he played before he got hurt and then was out last week. I know it was only like a drive and a half, but I think, the Titans' defensive line is pretty good, but the secondary is pretty vulnerable, I would say. It's a division game. I kind of just want to throw a Richardson lineup. Maybe that's just me holding on to false hope at this point, but I just, it's kind of like drugs, just can't quit it. But Anthony Richardson, we know what his upside is. If I'm going to get him at 7,300 over on FanDuel, and like you said, I believe it was 6K over on DraftKings, I'm going to try it. So, like I said, I like this game, especially probably better in large field, but I mean even in a small field too. I just think that this game can get a little wonky on both sides. I can see some points being scored here and people kind of overlooking it for some of the other stuff and just going under the radar. So it seems like we're both on Titans wide receivers. I guess the advice would just tell people to make bets on both of them, and one of them will hit surely.
Yep.
So
And I think the question is what's going on with the Colts receivers, right? It's like we heard that Michael Pittman might be going on IR with a back injury, and now all of a sudden he's practicing. Josh Downs didn't practice all week with the heel foot injury, and then he practiced on Friday. So, man, there's just too much uncertainty for me in that wide receiver room. Somebody's going to have an opportunity, but I don't know which one it is, and that's just a call I don't want to have to make.
Right, I've liked Josh Downs better than Pittman. I know Pittman had the game. If this is Flacco, I mean, I'd be firing the horses up for everybody, but DraftKings, he is 6,300. Michael Pittman is, and then FanDuel, he will end up being 6,600, and then Josh Downs is a little bit cheaper, so it ends up, you get in this weird range. We'll get into some guys like Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson are around this price range and are going to have some ownership. 6,100 over on FanDuel for Josh Downs, and then 5,500. So, willing to take some shots. I'm going to have a lineup with this game and just, pray about it before I do it. But for whatever reason, I just think that this can get a little sideways, and that's kind of where I want to attack. So, I think that's about it. Like I said, my Anthony Richardson bias leaking out, but that's all I got on that one.
Yeah, and I think we should talk about the quarterbacks real quick in that, this is a week where, there's not a lot of value. So,
Yep.
You kind of want to spend down on quarterback and not pay up. I think I made this point in my article this week. I think it should be the exact opposite. I think you should be paying for the certainty of your quarterback, presumably as long as they're not, super high priced, because there's just a lot of uncertainty with all these guys. Even like, going on to Kirk Cousins, is this a Bijan game? There's just so much uncertainty with the rest of these guys that I want to pay up because I want to be for sure certain that I'm getting points. I'm getting that 20, 25, 30 points out of my quarterback spot because there is so much uncertainty, the rest of my lineup. So that's the place. If I can buy certainty, that's where I want to spend my money.
No, I totally get that. Like you said, this bottom half of these quarterbacks, it's like we've seen some glimpses, but they can give you 10 points instead of 30, and that kind of tanks the rest of your lineup there. Especially, like I said, some of these plays later on, we'll get to one in a second. There's a decent amount of chalk to be had, especially if you're playing cash, and it just kind of leans you into certain ways, like certain builds. So I totally agree. I'm playing a lot of these high-priced quarterbacks this week, and we'll get into most of them here in a little bit, but that's a great point.
Speaking of quarterbacks and what may be chalk, I'm not sure. Tampa Bay goes to New Orleans to play the Saints. Saints are going to be starting Spencer Rattler. 42-point total in this game, which seems exceptional for a game with a rookie starting quarterback in their first start. Tampa Bay is a 3.5-point road favorite, 22.75 implied total for the Bucs, 19.25 for New Orleans. I'm having a hard time. We'll talk about Spencer Rattler in a minute. I'm having a hard time getting there with the Saints, with any of the Saints. How are you feeling about this game?
I don't think I'm going to play Spencer Rattler. If you were to play Rattler, it'd be on DraftKings, and you pray that he gets 15 points, and it helps you build up the rest of your lineup. I don't think he's a FanDuel play because it's more touchdown dependent. And I mean, you'd be asking. I don't think the punting there would make sense, but some of the stuff. Saints offensive line is obviously in pretty bad shape, but he played with that at South Carolina. So I know the NFL is much different, but it's not like he was coming from a perfect system his last year at South Carolina, where him and Xavier Liggett broke records for the Gamecocks. So I cannot do Spencer Rattler. I understand the process if you can get there, building up like the super team around him. The one guy I would be interested in on the Saints side as wide receivers is Rashid Shaheed, because Spencer Rattler's got the arm to like where it just takes one for Rashid to get over the top. I know he's been more than just a deep ball threat, but just kind of catch the Bucks secondary that's been very susceptible to this stuff this season. They've had a lot of injuries. I haven't seen Anton Winfield's playing. I'm not sure if you know if he's in or not, but he's been
I
questionable.
don't know. He
all week.
practiced the other day, but I'm not sure of his status yet.
So it just I understand the play. I'm not going to do it personally. And then Chris Olave just hasn't gotten there, and I can't click him. But the only other thing I would say, Alvin Kamara, if he just gets a bunch of dump offs, he will get there as far as the PPR portion of the program. So that's probably better on DraftKings. I'm going to look up his price real quick. 7,700. I mean, you're right behind Derrick Henry. That is a lot of money.
Yeah,
over on DraftKings.
That's a lot for a guy who's going to be going against a really good run defense and probably won't be able to run the ball between the tackles at all.
Yeah. So, and it's the same thing on FanDuel. He's 8,800. That is, Bijan's in a better spot. Joe Mixon, I actually think, is a better spot. So I'm not going to be able to do that. And then, like I said, I don't hate the Rattler stuff, but over on the other side, Rachaad White is out, so Bucky Irvin will be the chalk play of the day. I think he's great chalk. I would definitely play him. He's going to be in your cash lineups, and if he helps build your GPP, like the punt play, there's a couple running backs. Austin Eckler's one. Tyrone Tracy is another if you were playing over on FanDuel. But I think Bucky's going to be in most lineups today. He's in a great spot, especially, and for whatever reason, the Buccaneers defense is 3,700 on FanDuel, and I believe it's pretty cheap over on DraftKings as well, 2,600.
26, 27, yeah.
Yeah, so they'll be the cash game defense. You will need to be playing them so you don't get buried. Sacks, turnovers, that stuff. It leads to a lot of short yardage stuff if they turn the Saints over, or a lot of 3-and-outs. So it works for Bucky as well for the correlation. I will lay off a little bit in tournaments, but I still think it's a good play in tournaments. Play Bucks defense, even at ownership, because if they're the one that breaks the slate at this price, you end up being behind. So the only other thing I have as far as Bucks stuff go, if you want leverage from the Bucky Irving stuff, just play the Baker Mayfield double with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. We have seen it get there like twice or 3 times already this year. It's not the perfect matchup, and we know Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore will have a boxing match, but it's just great leverage on the field for all this Bucky Irving stuff. So that's the only thing I've got else on this game, I believe. Do you have a thought on the Buck stuff?
There's a lot to talk about in this game.
Yes.
One, let's start with Mike Evans, right? It's like he's struggled against New Orleans historically. He's got like 350 yards total against them since like 2000 or 2020, excuse me, 2000.
Yep.
That's all the way back to like when they won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. So he has not done well against them. But the alternate side of that is he's got 99 career touchdowns. You've got to think that he would love to get number 100 against Marshawn Lattimore. So if you want to kind of flyer play, he's so expensive though. It's a struggle for me to get there on the narrative that he really wants to get that 100th touchdown. So they may force it and he may get that touchdown, but is that enough to pay off his price? I mean, he's 8,200 on FanDuel, 73 on DK. You need more than one touchdown to pay that off. So I can't get there on Evans this week. Bucks defense. Now, here's what you got to remember: the Bucks defense is these prices were set on Monday before the Derek Carr injury, so they didn't know that Spencer Rattler was going to be the quarterback. So yeah, I think I'm playing them everywhere this week because they are just so cheap and they're getting a rookie quarterback in their first start. Here's where I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think Spencer Rattler has an NFL arm. If you watch his deep balls in college, they float. He has no velocity. He can get the ball there, but he has no velocity on his throws. So I can't get there with Rashid Shaheed because he's number 3 in the league in air yards per target. You're right. He is doing more stuff this year than just running the 9 route, but that's still his bread and butter. So I can't get there with him. Olave is interesting if they want to kind of put him in the Michael Thomas role and let him do some kind of underneath stuff. I can see that happening. But the one guy I like on New Orleans is Juwan Johnson because he's crazy cheap. He's 3,100 on DK, 5,100 on FanDuel. If you watch what Spencer Rattler did well in college, it was just kind of intermediate crossing routes to Xavier Legette and just let him get run after the catch stuff. The guy who's most similar to Xavier Legette is Juwan Johnson, who's a converted wide receiver playing tight end. He's starting to get a little more integrated in the offense since he had
Injury
the
stuff.
offseason injury. Yeah, so he's finally starting to get going a little bit. And you've got the rookie receiver tight end there, or rookie quarterback tight end narrative going. So he's the one guy on the Saints that I like, especially at his price. And because tight end's just a wasteland. So like even if he doesn't go off, you're still kind of okay if you just don't spend up. Spencer Rattler's basically stone cold minimum on DK at 4K. But again, gets back to my quarterback point. Even if he pays off 3x, that's 12 points. That's not enough. You're still getting buried by the elite quarterbacks. So, yeah, like you said, he's got to get at least 15, 16, even though that's a really good price and you can really build a stud lineup around him. If he doesn't get to that 15, 16, 17 point mark, you're screwed. You're going to get buried by all the elite quarterbacks this week. So I can't get there even at that price. It's just, I just don't think there's the upside. I think this game's going to go way under. I think and these games historically have gone way under. So this just feels like a 19-13 game, and I just don't want to have too much to do with it.
Yeah, it's also a divisional game. All these divisional games, people get really excited for matchups, and then we see it every year. There's usually a letdown or just goes way under just because these teams know each other. So like you were talking about with Spencer Rattler, if you play him, it puts so much stress on to get everything else on on the rest of your lineup correct, because you can't take a snowflake on DraftKings for another guy unless Spencer Rattler goes off. If he goes for 20-25, I mean, God is good and everything is great. But if he just gets like stone minimum, or if he doesn't even get there, and I mean he's a 5th round pick. I know that he was one of these very highly touted prospects. Really started in high school, went to Oklahoma, some stuff happened, goes to South Carolina, but I mean he's still a 5th round pick. It's not like he's a 2nd round player. So I think that about covers it. But like I said, I agree with you. What you're talking about is arm stuff. Just getting behind the Saints or the Bucks defense isn't the worst thing in the world. So if I would pick one, I would pick Shaheed. But I'm not playing him personally. So I mean, I think we're both pretty much in agreement. Like I said, if you're playing Bucky Irving, you'll definitely have to play him in cash. And then I've got him in some tournament lineups just because he opens some other stuff and he's looked very good this year. It's probably going to be one of the better chalk plays of the year as far as running backs go. So
I think he is a good chalk playing cash, but I'm fading him in tournaments just because I don't think this game script is going to be very good for him. I just don't think there's the touchdowns in this game.
Are you playing any of the other two punt running backs with Tyrone Tracy and Austin
Tracy?
Eckler?
Yeah, I love Tracy. We'll talk about him.
Okay. Yep. So, all right, that sounds good then. We'll move on to the next game, or lack thereof, Texans at the Patriots. What do you got for this one?
All right. So Houston travels to New England, where they have never won. This is a fact. The Houston Texans have never won in Foxborough. 37.5 point total in this game. Houston is a 6.5 point favorite, opened at 7, so that's come down a little bit. Implied total of 22 for the Texans, playing without Nico Collins, and 15.5 for New England, playing with another rookie quarterback getting their first start in Drake May. So how are you feeling about this one?
Want to play Joe Mixon. I don't think anybody's going to play him. If you can pay up and correlate him with Houston defense, which is probably the most expensive on both sites.
I think they're second to the Steelers, but otherwise they're right there.
This matchup, the offensive line, defensive line matchup for the Patriots offensive line is brutal. I don't understand whatever plan they had for Drake May, or lack thereof. I don't know if they just got tired, or this is a disaster. One thing I do want to point out, I think a lot of people would like to play Tank Dell at his price just because Nico Collins is out and they think that the targets and stuff are just going to go his way. He's not looked as good. I'm not going to say he's looked bad, but he's not looked as good as he did pre-injury, the same thing that Tony Pollard had last year. Stephon Diggs could get there with volume, but I mean, if they don't have to throw the ball very much, we saw before Joe Mixon got hurt, they really leaned on the run. I know they played the Colts, who gives up the run to everybody, but I don't really want to play this game too much. I'll play Joe Mixon because I don't think anybody's going to play him in ownership. Gets in the box twice. You correlate him with Texans defense that gets 4 or 5 sacks on Drake May and makes his life a living hell. But the only other thing, Antonio Gibson, I'm going to look at his price real quick. With no Stephon or Ramondre Stevenson. He's 5,500 over on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings he ends up being 5,300. I guess he's fine as a punt play. I would rather go elsewhere, but I mean, especially on DraftKings, if Drake May drops it, does dump offs like 4 or 5 times, he'll quietly get there. But I just don't see it for him. And I'm just not, outside of Mixon and Houston defense, I'm just not playing much this game.
I agree with you. I don't like this game at all. I'm afraid that Diggs gets the Christian Gonzalez treatment. He's been really good. I don't think that Tank Dell is fully back. Like you said, he's just not the same guy since the injury and getting shot in the offseason. So I
forgot about that one.
Recovery. So yeah, I just don't think you can plug those guys in and say, oh, Nico Collins is out, so they're going to get the volume. I don't think that's the case. Really nervous. Like, I agree with you on Mixon. He's the guy I would want to start in this game, but he hasn't played in 3-4 weeks.
He's expensive.
He didn't get back to practice until late in the week. He's very expensive. Yep. So yeah, I'm not sure I can get there at his price. I do like Antonio Gibson, like you said. I think he's a good punt play because he's going to get all the volume there. And then going back to the rookie QB tight end narrative, I don't hate Hunter Henry at $5,000 on FanDuel and 3,800 on DK. He's pretty cheap. So my pay down tight ends this week are going to be the guys going with the rookie quarterbacks, and I'm pretty good with either one of them, honestly, at their price.
Makes a lot of sense. And, outside the top tight ends, which is Brock Bowers against Pittsburgh, not a very good matchup. Dallas Goedert, who gets both Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown back, like paying up for those guys doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Trey McBride we'll get to in a minute. Sam Laporta hadn't gotten there all year, and Jake Ferguson's going to be chalk. So outside of the top heavy tight end stuff, if you punt, those are the guys, like you said, Hunter Henry, Juwan Johnson, those are the guys to go after. So I definitely agree there, especially in a game script where the Patriots are more than likely going to play from behind. I really don't see much of a shot that they keep up for an entire 4 quarters against Houston, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, they're just this game's pretty ugly outside defense. So, but you're paying almost $5,000 for him, so that's pretty tough to stomach too. So
yeah, this is my upset play of the week is the Patriots. Like I said, Houston's never won in New England, and they are 6.5 point favorites. Favorites of 6 or more this year are 2-15 against the spread and 7-10 straight up. So like big favorites have not been winning this year. So this is my upset of the week. Before we get to the next game, if you are new to this, if you haven't started on FanDuel yet, you can go to idpplus.com/FanDuel and get $50 in bonus bets when you deposit $10. So if you're in a state where you can do this kind of fun stuff, go to FanDuel and go to idpplus.com/FanDuel, get $50 in bonus bets when you deposit $10. Moving on to our next game, this is my favorite game of the week, is the Browns at the Eagles. Cleveland is a 8.5 point dog. 42.5 is the total. 17 point implied total for Cleveland. Just a disaster with Deshaun Watson. Philly coming off their bye, 25.5 point implied total. Jameson, I think this Cleveland team is just ready to absolutely implode, and I want to be there when it happens. So I am all over the Eagles this week. What are you thinking about this game?
Well, I guess I'll spoil it. I was going to have A.J. Brown as my flag plant this week, so that is how I'm feeling about this game. The Eagles have played basically one game with everybody on offense healthy. They get Lane Johnson back, which changes the whole trajectory on this offense, especially on the offensive line. Devontae Smith's back. A.J. Brown, the alpha, at a very discounted price. I know he's expensive, but $8,100 for what I would consider a $9,000 wide receiver who will get there probably next week after he beats the holy hell out of the Browns this week. That's where I'm going to go. $7,800 over on DraftKings. Jalen Hurts will be in contention for your cash game quarterback. He's probably going to be mine over on FanDuel personally. Tush push stuff. Browns defense has got a lot of injuries. They just can't hold up this lack of offense from the Browns anymore. I just think it's an explosion spot for the Eagles, and like you said, I want to be part of it. So I'm playing the Jalen Hurts doubles, and then on other lineups, I'm playing Saquon Barkley and playing Eagles defense with it. So I'm with you. This is probably going to be one of my highest owned games. I like David Njoku as a bring back, just hoping that he gets the dump off stuff. I love Amari Cooper. I think he's one of probably my favorite wide receivers in the league. He's had a brutal run out, and he's probably a great tournament play, but I can't do it. I'd just rather be safe and play Njoku at tight end and hope he beats the field. But I'm with you. I'm on this game, and I really like AJ Brown, especially today.
Yeah, I just think this is a game where everything just goes to hell for Cleveland, and like this is like on Monday we're looking at the aftermath of the implosion. So yeah, I want to be on this game. I think this is where everything just goes to shit for them. I love except for Dallas Goedert. I like every part of the Eagles offense. Yep. And if you think like you said, this is the first game they've had everybody healthy since week 1. And in week 1, Goddard did nothing against Green Bay, against a team that's given up some points to tight end. So yeah, I don't like Goddard in this game at all, but I love everyone. I think AJ Brown's a great flag plant. I love him. Price is way too cheap. Yeah, he should be much higher than he is. I'm starting Hurts everywhere, and I'm bringing back AJ Brown with him. I'm stacking AJ Brown with him. I like Devonta Smith too. Don't get me wrong. I just think AJ Brown has a much bigger touchdown upside. So I like him more. I like Devonta Smith more on DK than I do FanDuel, but yeah, I like them both. Love Saquon Barkley, even though he is the highest priced guy on the board. Well, he's second to CeeDee Lamb, but I think he should be the highest priced guy on the board this week. So I'm going to have some cash lineups with him in it. Probably some tournament lineups too, just because I just think he could absolutely go off this week. And like you could see Hurts and Barkley go off. You can see Hurts and AJ Brown. I've got some underdog stuff where I've just got Philly onslaught lineups. I just think this game is going to be a monster for Philly. So yeah, if they don't go off, I'm in trouble this week. Let's just say that.
Well, I think we should be pretty confident that they do.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is going to have ownership, but his wide receivers are not. So you don't have to really worry about the Jalen Hurts stuff, because if you just play one wide receiver, they go off. I'm playing the doubles, but if you don't think that the Browns can kind of keep up and say the Eagles don't need to pass as much as they do, I don't hate the idea of just playing one wide receiver. Probably in small field be better. But I mean, I'm with you. I think the Eagles kind of come back to life here. A lot of people have counted them out with Nick Sirianni, and the offense been a little goofy. They haven't been healthy in a month.
Nope.
So get the band back together. Perfect spot against Deshaun Watson, who it's been time. I'm not going to go into that debacle, but just ready for new things at quarterback for him. They deserve it, though, and I'll leave it at that. But we're in agreement. Eagles probably my most owned stuff, and it sounds like yours as well this week.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't hate Amari Cooper. 6,200 on FanDuel, 6K on DK. Just because I think this game is going to get out of hand quick, and they could be just throwing for having to throw for 3 quarters. So yeah, I want zero part of Jerome Ford, nothing to do with the Browns running game, because I think they're going to be a negative game script early and often. So don't like them at all. So moving on to the next game, the final of the 6 early window games. That is the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Green Bay to take on my Packers. This game opened at 5. It's now a 5.5 point Green Bay favorite. 47 is the total, down from 49.5. I think the weather has really affected the total in this game. So implied totals of 26.25 for Green Bay, 20.75 for Arizona. Supposed to rain all day in Green Bay. So how does that affect how you're looking at this game?
It definitely affects it a little bit. I was very excited about Josh Jacobs regardless. And just
100%.
That's where I wanted to go from the get-go, and that's probably where I'm going to end up going. The Cardinals, we saw the 49ers, for whatever reason, not run the ball on them as much as I thought they should have last week, and I think that kind of cost them a game. I like Brock Purdy. I've done that, song and dance here on the show, but I just thought that the Cardinals probably worse against the run than they are against the pass, and that's saying something. I didn't think they needed to, and I think that Matt LaFleur and the Packers will kind of establish it. Josh Jacobs ends up being like a mid-price running back. 6,700 over on DraftKings. I believe he's about 7K over on FanDuel. So, or 7,600, excuse me. Not really worried about Emmanuel Wilson. I know he's split some time and stuff, but the Cardinals' offense has not been as good as I think people have expected it to be. I do like Trey McBride this week as a bring back, but like you said, with the weather, that kind of changes some stuff. The Jordan Love Onslaught he's pretty expensive, but the rest of the guys like Wicks, Dobbs are in the same price range, like the lower like 6,000 over on FanDuel, and then Jaden Reed's kind of cheap for his price. But if there's rain and stuff, I just want to play Josh Jacobs. Really, I like this game before the weather, and I probably shouldn't be too scared because of it. But we do this at times. We see rain and forecast, and we get scared and don't play anything. But the game environment's here for both of these teams, so I am curious. I want to hear how you think this game's going to go.
I'm with you 100% in that I was huge on Josh Jacobs going into the game before the rain, before the forecast came down, in that if you watched their game last week, when they started getting just really sloppy and really wonky in the first half is when they got away from the run. And so I think LaFleur is going to put a focus on the run this week. They did it in the Malik Willis games, right? They ran all over Indy. They ran all over Tennessee. So I think he's going to get back to that. And just, man, they're really struggling to catch the ball. So there's so much going on in the wide receiver core with, is Watson going to play? We haven't really heard. Dobbs is back, but what's his role? Are they pissed at him after the suspension? Wicks has had like 4 killer drops in the last 2 games. Dropped a deep pass on late in the game that would have sealed the game. It would have been a touchdown. A great play call. So I don't think they're very happy with him either. Jaden Reed, you're going to play because he's going to get the touches, and Arizona plays a lot of zone, and he's like he's as good a zone receiver as there is in the league right now. So he's going to have to get some play. I love Josh Jacobs this week. I don't hate Emmanuel Wilson as a pay down, just because like Arizona has given up so much running production to second running backs. Like they gave him 2 touchdowns to Jeremy McNichols in the Washington game. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery both had production in the Detroit game. So they can give up production to a second running back. So yeah, I'm not worried about Emmanuel Wilson if I'm going after Josh Jacobs, but I'm not afraid of starting him either if I need like a super punt play. So yeah, I love that. I like Connor on the Arizona side. He's got like the weather. I think Green Bay is still vulnerable against the run. They're vulnerable against the screen. You saw Kyron Williams have a really good game against them last week. So I do like James Conner. McBride, if I'm going to pay up, is my number 1 tight end. But like I said, I don't want to have to pay up this week. So I'm not really going there in DFS. But yeah, I think this is a monster Josh Jacobs game.
So that's like I said, that's where I lean before the weather stuff. Trey McBride would be my bring back over Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah,
whatever reason, him and Kyler just haven't gotten there yet. But 6,500 over on FanDuel, and then over on DraftKings, he's going to be 5,700 right behind Brock Bowers as the second tight end. So, like I said, if you want to mix and match, Jaden Reed would be one. If you want to lean into narrative stuff, say if the weather doesn't really impact it. I mean, a lot of people played Dontavian Wicks, got burned last week, and aren't going to play him this week.
Yeah, good point.
I tend to go after that stuff. So I just there's one tournament I built a Jordan Love triple. So I did Reed, Dobbs, and Wicks with Jordan Love, and it projects pretty well. Like I said, the weather's kind of goofy, but like I said, I like the game environment. I'm worried about the Cardinals, though. This is a team I think a lot of people were really excited about on offense, and it's just been weird. I just don't think they have the offensive line and the defense to it hasn't hit yet. Maybe it will. And then, like you said, James Conner is going to be a guy who's probably going to go under owned and has a nice workload at his price that he can kind of pay off there. But both of us on Josh Jacobs, so that's good news for me. And like I said, I think that's about it for this game.
Yeah, and if you think about like Arizona, like you said, back-to-back road games, they're basically a West Coast dome team going east to play an early window game in outdoor stadium in the rain. This does not set up well for them at all. So yeah, I hate betting the Packers just because I'm so emotionally invested in them. But I think this should be like, there's value in this game. I think this should be like a 7.5 point line. So I kind of want to sneak a bet in there, but we'll see. All right, let's get to the afternoon games. And another very fun game is the Atlanta Falcons going to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Atlanta is a 6-point road favorite. 46.5 is the total. So 26.25 for implied total for Atlanta and 20.25 for Carolina. Is this a Bijan game or is this a Kirk Cousins game? What are you thinking?
I want to play Bijan, and It is very tough. I believe he's kind of injured. He has not gotten there. I had a rant like a week and a half ago about the Falcons offense in general. Kirk Cousins puts up
That
500
was good
points. I
stuff.
look like a moron. If there was a time in life for Bijan Robinson to finally have the monster ceiling game, it would be today against the Panthers. But I'm going to play him. I'm just going to close my eyes, bet that this happens. But like I said, Panthers defense, they don't have anybody. I mean, at all. The only people they did have are all hurt. Panthers offensive line has got some injuries too. So I know that a lot of people are going to be playing Chuba Hubbard, who I think is okay, and Deontay Johnson. I'm not going there this week. I think the offensive line injuries kind of make it worse. Like the Panthers had a good game against the Bengals, who have probably bottom 5 worst defense in the league, and it kind of let them get there. But I think Panthers going to come back down to earth. Drake, a lot of ownership in this game. So like Drake London is going to have some ownership. I think he's fine. I'd rather play Bijan. I think Tyler Algier is interesting as well for tournaments, just because I think he's a good running back and he's gotten some work. So I'm going to lean into the Falcons here. But I'm very scared of being burned by Bijan Robinson. But at the same time, if there's a time and place, this would be it. And if this is not the place, then we just kind of need to go our separate ways.
Yeah, I agree. Like if Bijan doesn't go off in this game, then I'm just out like for a while. In that, yeah, I'm worried that he's dinged up, but this is a game where he needs to go off. Check my pricing on this. Is he really? Is he 8,500 on FanDuel? Is that right?
I believe so. Give me just a second here. If it loads, 8,500.
Yeah, 85,
yep.
85 on FanDuel. It's $1,000 more than Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
Doesn't
make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I've got to worry more about Drake London. I've got to worry about Darnell Mooney, who's a big part of the offense. I've got to worry about Kyle Pitts, who got off the mat last week and didn't deliver a 0, was actually productive. So against, a terrible, this is a Carolina pass defense that gave up a monster game to DJ Moore last week. They couldn't stop the Bears at all on the ground or in the air. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm afraid of getting burned by Bijan, but I'm really having a hard time starting him this week in DFS.
Yeah, I've made the commitment that I need to play the matchup and I'm going to do it, but it's tough. I could totally see Tyler Algier having 2 touchdowns and just totally shoving it down my throat. But like I said, I want to reiterate, I've seen a lot of stuff with Panthers. I think Chuba Hubbard's fine for his workload, and he's actually been quietly very good, but I'm worried about the offensive line that has played pretty decent until they've had, I believe their center's gone. I believe it's a right tackle as well. So Moten or Morton, whichever one. It just worried about the Panthers offense. I know they went to Andy Dalton. Things look good, but they had the monster matchup and just think kind of comes down. But Falcons defense is very cheap over on FanDuel. Let me check. They're expensive on DraftKings. They're the 3rd highest, but on FanDuel, I think they're like close to the bottom. So yeah, 3,800, just $100 more than the Bucks. If you want to get some leverage in tournaments on the Buccaneers ownership as far as defenses go, I think it's a great spot for them. So, but that's like I said, I'm just going to close my eyes and hope that Bijan finally does it, and if not, then I guess we'll have a talk. But until then, we'll see.
Yeah, the one thing I do want to point out is Drake London. He's got 25 targets the last 2 weeks, and like I play a lot of best ball, and if you do best ball drafts, like Drake London's like the number 3 receiver this week behind CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then it's like him and AJ Brown are kind of the next group. So that's a pretty good price for a guy who's going that high in best ball drafts. So I'm going to have some Drake London exposure this week. I do like Darnell Mooney too, and like there's lineups I'll play them both just because like they both went off last week against Tampa. So I don't hate that if you want to stack them with Kirk Cousins and just say, if you want to say this is not going to be the Bijan game, this is going to be this is a Kirk Cousins game like it was on the Thursday night against Tampa, then I think that's a good way to get leverage on the field as well.
Yeah, that's a great call because 6,200 for Kirk Cousins over on DraftKings, and then on FanDuel he's 7,400, so he's at that bottom tier. Just threw
he's
for
my
500.
Tournament quarterback of the week in that if I'm starting Hurts like all over in cash, but if I want to go off of Hurts and pay down a little bit of quarterback, Cousins is the guy I'm going to.
Yeah, there's this Panthers just every part of this defense is a big hole. So you just pick one and go at it. I mean, Kirk Cousins just threw for 500 yards last week and going to come in with no ownership. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's where you get leverage. So I agree there.
All right, let's get a question from Joshua Bentata. Thanks for checking out the show. Pick 2, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Josh Downs, Darius Slayton, Calvin Ridley. Is that Trey Tucker, I would assume, or Jalen Tolbert?
I'm going to stick the 3 out that I'm thinking. It's Josh Downs, Darius Slayton, and Calvin Ridley. Darius Slayton got there last week. The rest of the numbers have not been great, but I mean, Bengals defense is beyond terrible. Just lost. I believe Dax Hill or Cam Taylor. I think it's Dax Hill for the year with torn ACL. Cam Taylor Britt, a guy who they thought was going to be good, has not really been that great, and it just things are tough. So Josh Downs I would normally like, but if Anthony Richardson's playing, that's a little scary. And I know you're not on Calvin Ridley, but I am. I'm going to go Calvin Ridley and Darius Slayton with the honorable mention of Josh Downs. You might be different, but those are my 3 guys I'm going to pick from.
I am, Slayton's the guy I'm definitely taking out of this group just because the Bengals defense is so bad, and he was the guy we're going to talk about when we get to that night game for FanDuel. I think he's a sneaky play. Yeah, I'm going to lean Josh Downs just because I'm on Hopkins this week, so I don't think it's going to be Ridley. Yep. But I also like Tolbert this week. I think he could be a sneaky play because I think that Dallas is going to have to throw a lot in that game, so I think he could be sneaky. I'm not playing McConkey. Denver's defense is really good, and their slot cornerback has been really good. They've shut down slots, so I'm not playing McConkey or Quentin Johnson. Honestly, I think that game could be just a massive under. So I'm a lean Slayton and Downs with honorable mention to Tolbert for me.
Okay, so if you need the second one, just flip a coin. Just put 2 guys on a piece of paper, flip a coin, and we got you Darius Slayton. And then, like I said, I think the other guys are in some good spots too. So appreciate you tuning in.
All right, we just talked about that game. Let's get it over with. Chargers at Broncos. The Chargers are 3-point road favorites. How is that possible? I mean, that line seems completely wrong. 35.5 point total. I'm going to be betting this game heavy. This line makes no sense. Implied total of 19.25 for the Chargers and 16.25 for Denver. I don't get it, but I don't want any part of this game for DFS. What are you thinking?
I think both defenses are in play, and that's really about it. Ladd McConkey is quietly, I don't want to say gotten there. He's turned out to be a really good wide receiver, but he's just on the Chargers. So volume's not going to be there. He's got a terrible matchup against this Broncos secondary. It's not just Patrick Surtain, it's the rest of the crew too. I mean,
their whole secondary is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they are whooping ass. And this Broncos defense has been really strong this year. So I just don't want to play Chargers stuff. J.K. Dobbins, I don't think anybody's going to play. Gus Edwards is out. I almost said Gus Bradley. I hate him so bad. But Gus Edwards is out. Kamani Vidal, one of the offseason sweethearts, is going to be called up to the line of duty. If you are in a deeper league and need a stash, I like him. I'm not going to play him today, but I liked him coming out of Troy. So not going to play J.K. Dobbins. I can't figure out the Broncos running back situation. I know Javonte Williams is there. They also have Jaleel McLaughlin. I believe Audric Estime is going to be activated today from what I saw. So that just seems like a disaster. And, Sean Payton wants to talk about he's going to get his wide receivers the ball, and he never does. So I just you can play defenses and be done with it if you want to mix and match. Let me see pricing on this. So Broncos defense 4,700. I believe Chargers Joe Alt and Roshan Slater are both back. So offensive line ends up being pretty good. And then Chargers are 4,400. So I'd rather go elsewhere. But that's about it for me.
Yeah, I think you brought the only guy that's really kind of interesting in Kamani Vidal, but there's other paydowns at running back, right? You got Bucky Irving, you got Tyrone Tracy, you got Antonio Gibson, you got Austin Eckler. There's other guys you can pay down to that have a background, that have have some production to fall back on. So I think it's just bad process to start a guy like Vidal making his first, just be active for the first time in week 6. Even though, I like him as a player. I think he's going to get there eventually. I just think this is a terrible time to start him.
Yeah, you just don't have to do it. But he is stone cold min price on both sides. So, but like I said, this game pretty ugly, and so is the next one.
Yeah. All right. Let's get through both of them. Let's take our medicine, eat our vegetables. The Steelers at the Raiders. 36.5 point total on this one. So 35.5 for the Chargers, Denver, and 36.5 for the Steelers, Raiders. Those are the two lowest over-unders of the week. So, yeah, pretty gross. Steelers, 3-point road favorites, 19.75 implied total. And the Raiders probably starting Aiden O'Connell, 16.75 implied total. Ick?
I just want to start by saying Najee Harris sucks. I just want to reiterate that. I'm never going to play him again, but I just want to keep reiterating that each week on the show, anytime we're going to do this. But Jalen Warren is back. I don't have any interest in it. Brock Bowers has quietly gotten there on yards, and Devontae Adams is out. Jacoby Myers is out, so it leaves Trey Tucker and Brock Bowers. But, I mean, you're paying up for him at tight end. Some other guys I like better. Jake Ferguson, I just think he's got a better ceiling. And then the Steelers' defense has been pretty good. So you're getting Aiden O'Connell against the Steelers' defense that's quietly gotten there. I just don't want any part of that. Steelers stuff, Justin Fields, I guess technically I could see it. George Pickens has been throwing some tantrums. Maybe they've talked some things out. And it's a decent matchup for him. I'm not going to play Steelers stuff. I just can't do it. And Steelers defense, you're paying up for them. I think it's okay. Steelers top-ranked defense over on DraftKings, and I think they're right there on FanDuel as well. So, second 4,900. I just rather find $100.
Yeah.
I'd rather play Texans. I'd rather play Eagles. I'd rather play Broncos. Bengals don't belong in that category, but it just and then Raiders are min price, or not min price, middle of the pack. So I just no, thank you.
Yeah. That doesn't make sense, especially with Christian Wilkins going on IR. It's like that defense has underperformed all year. They've been banged up. I don't get it. They should be basically mid price, although it's a Steelers offense. So I get it. I'm kind of interested in the Pickens squeaky wheel narrative, but I just don't think this is a great matchup. They're going cross country to play in Vegas. Here's the thing on Najee Harris. He is going to have a game at some point where he just goes off and has a couple touchdowns and just runs the slate and everybody's off him. So, but I like on 7,200 on FanDuel, if he doesn't get a touchdown, you're getting killed on FanDuel at that price. So I just can't get there. 5,800 on DK is interesting in that, but you said Jalen Warren's going to be back. We don't know what his role is going to be. Bowers is interesting on the Raiders if you want it, but he's the highest priced tight end. Yeah. Like if the Steelers just say, okay, we're going to shut down Bowers and let Trey Tucker beat us, he can take a 0. Yeah, and you're paying up for him. I mean, that just scares the hell out of me. So there's Pickens. I probably want to have some exposure just in case they decide to kind of grease his wheels a little bit. But other than that, I hate this game.
Yeah, I mean, for Najee Harris to get there, he would have to have 80 attempts. He'd probably get about 45 yards, and they would have to have like some sort of turnover to where like they turn it over, and instead of getting a safety, they're on the 1 yard line, and the offensive line has to like push him in. That's how Najee Harris gets there. You
basically need like a pass interference in the end zone for him to score.
that's how it's going to get there. So I just no, thank you. We've seen this story. I'm sure he's going to burn me eventually, but I'm going to let him do it. Anyway, moving on. We're
11 out of 12 weeks you're going to be right, and then the 1 week you're wrong. You're going to be like, all right, whatever, it happens.
Yeah, that's on me. So we're all good. But more exciting game, Lions and the Cowboys. So this should be
let's get a question in for our buddy, the IDP tipster Gary Van Dyke. He wants to know Watson or Stroud. I don't like either one this week, but I'm not. There's no way I'm starting Watson.
Yeah, it's got to be Stroud. I mean, Watson, I guess the owner is just holding Kevin Stefanski at gunpoint this point. The reason why they're not starting him, it's got to be Stroud.
Yeah, just big picture. There's no way that deal happens without Jimmy Haslam saying, "Okay, go out and get Deshaun Watson." So yeah, he's got to be the one that is forcing Stefanski to play Watson. There's just no other way that makes sense. So I agree with you. And until he says no, then it's going to be Watson, and that offense is going to be terrible. Another question from Dylan Fink. Thank you for checking out the show. Need help? Full PPR, pick 2 flex. Alec Pierce at Tennessee, Wicks against Arizona, Douglas against Houston, Bateman against Washington. Leaning Wicks Bateman because I trust their quarterbacks more. That's fair. What do you think on this one, Jameson?
I'm going to eliminate Douglas. That'd be fair.
Agreed.
Bateman is like a low floor play, so I'm going to play Wicks against Arizona. I don't think anybody's well. I mean, this is obviously just redraft, but I think Wicks is still in a really good spot, and I don't think you should be scared, even though he had some pretty brutal drops last week. And then it ends up being, if you want the upside for Pierce or more of the floor for Bateman, I'm going to go with Alec Pierce. All it takes is one with him and Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson throws the 90-yard moon ball. Alec Pierce is there, and it just when he hits, I mean, he hits big. So I'm going to go Alec Pierce and Wicks here.
Yeah, I think Wicks is the one guy I would definitely start in this list. I don't like it just because there's a chance that he just does the 2-catch thing that he did last week. But
yeah,
if he goes, he's the one that's most likely to go off and have a big game against Arizona. So yeah, I think you got to take that upside. I agree with you on Pierce. Yeah, I just can't get there on Bateman. I can't do it. So I'm going to say Pierce. I'm going to agree with you and say Pierce just because so much uncertainty in Indy. So yeah, I think he could get. He and Wicks are the highest upside plays, and when you have guys that none of these guys have floors, right? They're all 0 floor guys. So I'll just take the 2 upside plays.
Yeah, the thing with Bateman is, as somebody who has done that song and dance a million times, like he might have 4 catches for 40 yards, and if he gets a touchdown, that's great. But it just can't do it. We've done this for like 3 years now. I don't know how long he's been in the league, but I mean, people are still trying the Bateman stuff, and I just I know he's probably been a little bit better than. Yeah, I can't do it. Which we say that, and he will have 2 touchdowns today. So Dylan, I apologize in advance if that's the case, but just going to go with Alec Pierce. All it takes is 1 with him, and then Wicks is a safe play there.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the game environment is better for Bateman, but he has to get a touchdown at least to get there. Otherwise, he's just killing you. So, yeah, I can't do it. Can't do it. I mean, take Alec Pierce and hope for the big shot. All right, let's get to probably the game of the day. I think the rematch of the game of the year in best ball last year, the game that determined best ball championships. That is Detroit traveling to Dallas. 52.5 point total in this game. Detroit is a 3-point road favorite. So implied totals of 27.75 for Detroit, 24.75 for Dallas. Lot of juicy good stuff in this one. How you want to play it?
I'm eliminating Rico Dowdle. Lions
Fair.
run defense has been awesome, and I don't think Rico Dowdle has been very good. And then I know you said you like Tolbert today, but this Cowboys offense is very simple. It's Dak Prescott, it's CeeDee Lamb, it's Jake Ferguson. You can sprinkle in Tolbert, but I mean, that's where it's going to be playing. I'm going to play the Dak double if they're going to win. I mean, this is kind of the same thing with Joe Burrow last week. If the Cowboys win, it's going to have to be through the air with Dak Prescott. No, he's going to have to do the 303, just like I called Joe Burrow last week. Thank you very much. But I'm just going to play. I'm going to play the Dak stuff. I'm very excited to play that. You can bring it back with Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you play Lamb and Brown, you're probably going to play all 3 punt running backs. I don't think you could, and you might even be playing a punt not punt defense, punt tight end too. Well, never mind if you're playing Ferguson, but you're probably playing a punt defense, probably playing all 3 to fit Amon-Ra and Dak and CeeDee Lamb. So it gets kind of tough. Sam Laporte is very interesting. He has not gotten there this year. They're coming off a bye. I don't think many people are going to play him. We've seen his upside. It's just basically been the touchdowns that he's missing. And, kind of pick your poison on the running backs. On FanDuel, David Montgomery is $100 more expensive than Jahmyr Gibbs. I love David Montgomery. Seems a little weird to me personally, but let me check on DraftKings real quick as well.
It is 65
Seven.
Montgomery and 7,000 for Gibbs on DK.
Yeah, so that's a $500 difference there. This game
Yeah, that
I'm
makes more
playing.
sense.
Yeah. So I just I really like Dak today. I'm playing the Dak double, just make it easy on myself with CD Lamb and Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson probably going to be one of the chalkier tight ends. We
Yep.
know his upside, so he's wide receiver 2 in Dallas, basically. So I'm going to go there. I'm kind of having a hard time figuring out the Lions stuff. I don't know if you have any plays that you're comfortable with or figured this puzzle out.
Yeah, let me clarify. You said I like Jalen Tolbert. I like Jalen Tolbert as a pay down. I'm not
Yeah, well,
actively going for him.
you brought up his name, so that's what I
Yes, he
meant.
did. That's fair. Yeah, especially in DK where he's only $5,000. So I like that as a pay down. Yeah, the Gibbs Montgomery thing is interesting. It makes sense that Montgomery's more expensive on FanDuel where it's half PPR and very touchdown heavy. So I get it. But I think Gibbs at 7,800 is really underpriced there. So yeah, I like Gibbs a lot, and I do like Montgomery. So I'm fine playing either one, but I think he's mass. I think Gibbs is really underpriced on FanDuel. CeeDee Lamb, most expensive player on the slate, non-quarterback, obviously.
Yep.
Man, I'm struggling. I don't want to say he's not part of the offense, but he's so much part of the offense. The teams are just being able to take him away. So yeah, I'm nervous about him this week, even though obviously he had the monster game last year that won, that basically won best ball championships. But yeah, Detroit's pass defense has been better than I expected. That they're finally starting to come around. Obviously, the run defense is fantastic. So Rico Dowdle is unstartable at 6K. You need basically 9 catches for 80 yards for him to pay off that price. So right. I just can't get there with Dowdle. Yeah, so I like Tolbert as a second option in that offense. If Detroit just says we're going to shut down CeeDee Lamb and make you beat us somewhere else. Ferguson, yeah, I don't mind the price, but he's so touchdown dependent that that kind of scares me. I'd rather just pay down for the Hunter Henrys and Juwan Johnsons that we talked about. I'd rather just pay down for those guys than take the and Ferguson's going to be very chalky this week, like you said. So yeah, I don't know that I want to go there. I think I'd rather just leverage the field and let the field take the risk, and because I don't think he can bury me, right? I don't think he can put up is he going to score 2-3 touchdowns that just kills you? I don't think so. So, yeah, I think I'm running it. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown in this game, but he's expensive, right? He's 9,000 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DK. He's right up there with Chase on FanDuel in the Sunday night game, which I'd much rather play Chase. So yeah, I can maybe get there on DK, but just because of the volume and the full PPR. But yeah, I don't think I can get there in FanDuel. So on FanDuel, it's all Gibbs and Montgomery for me. And then I probably want some Amon-Ra exposure on DK, but that's the way I'm kind of going there.
Yeah. The one guy we haven't talked about is Jared Goff, who ends up being very cheap on DraftKings, 6,400, and then FanDuel, he ends up 7,700, a little above, kind of the middle of the pack there. But I mean, this Cowboys defense just not been very good. I believe Micah Parsons out. Just got some holes right smack dab in the middle of the defense. It's not been near as good as what it was last year. Can't tell if it's just personnel or Mike Zimmer is just a little bit out of touch with some of the stuff. I can't really tell, but it sets up really nice for
all the above.
The Lions. Yeah, I think so as well. But like you said, Jahmyr Gibbs, very interesting. I mean, him and David Montgomery are basically doing 50-50, and I know David Montgomery has probably gotten most of it so far. But, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs just got that, that ceiling to him as well. So, I think you do the Dak doubles and bring it back with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's fine if you don't want to do the wide receiver or the tight end. I don't have a preference just because we've seen it with Montgomery and Gibbs. And both of them get there. I mean, they did against Seattle. I believe it was Monday Night Football a couple weeks ago. Yep. Both of them score.
And they both did against Arizona, too.
Yeah, so it just ends up being hard to figure out this Lions offense just because of the amount of weapons. But I think if I had to pick one out of all of them, it'd be Jahmyr Gibbs for me. So it ends up, like I said, this game, I'm wanting to attack. I'm playing Dak stuff. I feel pretty comfortable about that. I'm over probably one of my most home plays is going to be the Dak doubles this week.
Yeah, my problem with Goff is I'm just terrified that Detroit just runs all over the Dallas defense, and Goff ends up with like 0 touchdowns. Yeah, because they don't need him to throw the ball. That's kind of my problem with Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. Is if in a non half PPR like FanDuel, if he only gets like 8 for 80, that's not enough to pay off that salary. So yeah, I'm kind of concerned there. And yeah, the running back thing is, how do you think this game is going to play out? If you think Detroit's just going to storm, just run all over Dallas, then I think Montgomery is the play. If you think it's going to be a shootout, then I think Gibbs is the play. So it just, how do you think this game is going to play is how you want to attack this game.
So, and that's it for the DraftKings stuff. And then we just got the night game on FanDuel. I think it's kind of pretty interesting. The Cincinnati Bengals go to MetLife, play the New York Giants. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, Cincinnati, again, 3.5-point road favorite. Total is 47. Bet down from 49. It's opened at 49. It's come all the way down to 47. So that's a pretty big swing. So implied totals of 25.25 for the Bengals and 21.75 for the Giants. Some fun stuff in this game. What do you like?
Yeah, I'm just going to say this right now. I will be playing the Joe Burrow double every week for the rest of the year because that's the only way that they are going to win. Almost got there again last week. Had a couple tournament lineups that finished in the top 10. Just playing Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. And that's the running backs are in good spots too. But if they're going to go win, I mean, that's how they're going to do it because this defense is just atrocious. So on the other side, people don't want to admit it, but Daniel Jones has quietly gotten there. I mean, he has been pretty decent. Giants probably should be 4-1 right now, just for some kind of goofy stuff that's happened to them. I'm not saying they're a great team by any means, but no Malik Neighbors, so Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson are going to have some ownership. The amount of Wan'Dale Robinson questions I've had this week, I feel like people are wanting to start him, and I feel like that's very worrisome. Like, Wan'Dale Robinson should be a desperation play, never a I'm excited for the PPR scam of a lifetime. But, and no Devin Singletary as well, so Tyrone Tracy ends up one of these punt plays. Once Eric Gray fumbled on the goal line at the very beginning of last week's game, it was the Tyrone Tracy show afterwards. So it's I like this game a lot. How do you feel about it before we get into anything else on it?
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point on Wan'Dale, and that especially this is a night game, so it's only on FanDuel, which is half PPR, and Wan'Dale is a PPR only guy. So yeah, if I can't start him on DraftKings, I don't want him. He's 6,300. Obviously on FanDuel only. So yeah, I can't get there. How does he pay off 3x his price? Like, how does he get there in a winning tournament lineup? I don't see the path. I do like Tracy quite a bit. 5,800 is a nice pay down. And I think he's the full-time guy because Singletary is not going to play. Bengals run defense is terrible. So I think they'll probably try to attack that way, especially without Neighbors. I like Slayton as a pay down, and props to you, man. You called the Joe Burrow thing last week, and he was the play all day. So yeah, I kind of want to pay up for Chase on FanDuel. Higgins is 7,600. I'd if I'm paying for one of these Bengals guys, I want the certainty of Chase. So
if you're playing the doubles, it gets very expensive.
Yeah, very much so. Burrow's only $200 cheaper than Jalen Hurts, so it's not like he's a bargain in any means.
No, so but I mean, this is going to be the rest of the year if they're going to win games. I think they can get back to 500 within the next month. They're scheduled the rest of the year outside division stuff's honestly pretty soft. I think they have the Eagles coming up. I think that's playable, but this defense is so bad. This is the spot for. I like Darius Slayton over Wan'Dale Robinson personally. I think both guys can quietly get there. I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel Jones has a good game. Like ends up top 5 quarterback. That's how bad the Bengals defense is. And just real quick, the Bengals running backs both were on injury report. I thought Zach Moss had a high ankle sprain last week, totally bent in half and missed a game, missed a practice, and it seems like he's going to be playing. Chase Brown seems to be kind of incorporating. I don't think one is more important than the other. I think it's like a true 50-50 kind of split for the time being. I like Chase Brown a lot this week. I think he's got some speed that can kind of get there, but I don't think anybody's going to play those over on FanDuel, and I think they're great leverage pieces to some of this stuff too.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is probably good leverage. I'm just, if one of them was healthy, I would like them, but yeah, then you wouldn't be getting the leverage because everyone would be on them as well. So I'm kind of nervous about both of them being dinged up. So prefer Brown over Zach Moss, but yeah, I'm kind of iffy on both of those guys. I'd much rather play this game through the passing game.
I think that's fair, but like I said, I think Giants wide receivers will have ownership because of how cheap they are. But I don't think anybody's playing Joe Burrow stuff under 10% once again.
I think that's a great call.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that every single week this year and hopefully print money. So we'll see.
Right on. All right, it's time for flag plants. Jameson, you gave us one earlier. You going to start with that one?
I'll start with that one. So A.J. Brown for me. Get a little bit of a discount here. I think he's a 9K receiver. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. Total gangster, total badass. Sets up awesome against the Browns secondary. And I just think that, we, outside of week one where they played in the Packers in like Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, wherever they played, game was kind of goofy. I think people have kind of forgotten how this offense works when everything's healthy, and I just think it sets up awesome for A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown alpha game incoming, and I'm excited for it.
I agree with you 100%, and I'm going to follow that, and I'm going to say Jalen Hurts is my flag plan. I'm starting him everywhere. Cash, tournaments, I think he's the best quarterback option this week. I think he's going to be involved. Even if Saquon Barkley has 3 touchdowns, I think 1 or 2 of them could come through the air. Hurts is probably going to get at least 1 on the ground. So I like, he's $1,200 cheaper than Lamar Jackson. He's cheaper than on FanDuel. He's $600 cheaper on DK. I think of the top options, he's the most affordable. And we talked about this game. I think this game is going off for the Eagles. So yeah, Jalen Hurts is my first flag plant, tying in with it. And I'm going to have a ton of AJ Brown doubles. So I'm going to have a ton of Eagle sacks. So, all right, number 2 flag plant for you.
I'm going to go back to the big dog, Derrick Henry. I don't think that this game gets as wild as people think. I think the Ravens kind of play from ahead. Commanders' defense has not been great. I think they've had some kind of soft schedule, but they run into the Ravens. And I just think that the big dog go for 102 touchdowns and just kind of establish it. So I was leaning Bijan. I'm scared to death. You brought up earlier paying up for quarterbacks. I kind of want to pay up for some of these playmakers while everybody else is just playing the punt stuff. That's the way to get different. So
exactly.
Paying up for A.J. Brown, paying up for Derrick Henry. So that's where I'm going to go with my second flag plant. How about you?
My second is the one we both liked, Josh Jacobs. I think Packers want to run the ball all day. I think they want to keep the Arizona offense off the field. The weather conditions are going to kind of maybe force their hand a little bit in doing so. And you can run on Arizona. Arizona's run defense is terrible. Again, bad situation for Arizona, tough spot, having to go on the road for the second straight week, having to travel, play outdoors. So yeah, I think this is a smash spot for Josh Jacobs, and I'm going to have him all over the place.
Yeah, I've got a lineup with Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, and I believe it's Bucky Irving. So I'm excited for it. I think that's kind of a lot of people play the mid-price wide receivers in the flex. I'm just going to lean into the running backs. I think it sets up very well. So before we get going, just let everybody know where they can find you, all that good stuff. So kick it off.
Yeah, at the Joel Wirth on Twitter. Always DMs are open. Always happy to talk DFS or best ball. You can find me on usually Wednesday mornings, the best ball show here on the IDP Plus network, talking about Underdog and doing the Battle Royale stuff. Big week this week. They kind of changed the format and the payout on Underdog on the Battle Royales up to 50K for first. So be stacking up this week and hoping to cash that out. You can also find my DFS top plays article on the site at IDP Plus. And while you're there, if you want to get a membership, you can get 20% off site-wide with promo code PROPS. Just go to idpplus.com/membership and enter ID and code PROPS. Get 20% off site-wide, and you can check out my top plays article.
Very good article. You need to check that out. I checked that out yesterday. It's got a lot of good stuff in there. So
appreciate that.
Always. I'm on Twitter machine. I'm starting to get this right where I point it correctly, but at Jameson Rules. Here every Sunday morning. We got Discord for IDP Plus. If you want to ask some questions, my DMs are open. I'd prefer not talk as much Wando Robinson as I have this week, but I'll do it for the people. But Rider Dynasty show with Joe Harlow and JJ Winter every Thursday over at IDP Plus as well. So that should do it. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you all win a bunch of money. Until next week, we will see you then. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.